rapid move from Hockenheim to Budapest, Scuderia Ferrari team principal Stefano Domenicali gives us an overview of the first half of the season and looks ahead to what are the team's expectations for the race at the Hungarian circuit, the final round before the summer break.
Ten races done, 10 races to go. What is your evaluation of the first part of the season of Scuderia Ferrari?
Well, if I think where we were in Australia, the first race, and where we are now after half of the championship, I think that for sure we did a great step forward, no doubt about it. And so while I was not pleased at all about the level of performance at the beginning of the season, I have to say that I'm pleased to see the reaction of the team in such a high pressure environment. And as I said, we cannot be complacent. I think that this is one of the toughest seasons that I remember because of the numerosity of the competitors around us. And we've seen how the races every Sunday are different. So for sure, I'm happy now with the way that we have improved. Not happy up to the moment where we will have the best and the fastest car of the field.
This is something you usually repeat on Sunday evening press meetings. What's missing on the F2012 to be the quickest car of the field?
I think that what we've seen this year at every race, the competitors have done a step forward, so the level of pure performance has increased dramatically in the last couple of races. I believe we have improved, but I think that we need to work in adding more downforce on the car. We need to improve the speed of the car, that for sure when we will arrive in a certain track will be fundamental. We need to work on traction, we need to work also on start, because I think that is a very important part of performance at the beginning of the race. And I want to add something that is not pure performance related, but I believe, considering the situation, as I said, that the reliability she will make will be the key factor.
You have nice memories of Budapest, like the victories in the World Championships in 2001 and 2002, but also bad memories like 2009 with the accident of Felipe. What comes as first in your mind just before going there?
Well, for sure the 2009 accident with Felipe is still very fresh, because Felipe is with us, and also for him when we go back to Hungary there is something in any case very special. But for us that we lived the fantastic memories of the championship that we won with Michael, these titles were incredible. I mean, winning, in summertime the championships is something that I don't think that will happen again, at least in the short future.
From a pure technical point of view, how do you see the race in Hungary next weekend?
Well, I'm expecting a race that will be, as always, very tough. Where almost the competitors that were very strong in Germany will be there. So McLaren did a great step, Red Bull, no doubt. And then, of course, we don't have to underestimate the fact that, for example, Lotus, Williams, Sauber, Mercedes are there. So it will be a very tight race, but above all a very tight qualifying, because the nature of the track means that if you have traffic, you may start from the back, and it's more difficult to overtake in that specific circuit.
After the first half of the season, Fernando is leading the championship with a reasonable margin over Webber. How many drivers do you think are still racing for championship this year?
Well, I think that the driver championship is very open to 5-6 drivers, no doubt about it. We don't have to under-evaluate even Button, that now is more than 100 points, more or less, from Fernando. So I think that all the top 6 drivers are fighting. It will be, very important before the break of the season to try to maximize the gap that we have with the others.
Having run there for the first time last year, a Ferrari Formula One car was back on the street of Moscow this weekend as part of the Moscow City Racing. been driven against the impressive backdrop of the historic center of the Russian city, Giancarlo Fisichella, who was at the wheel of the F60, told us how it went.
It's Sunday morning, just woke up, and we are here in beautiful Moscow. As you can see, there is the Red Square over there, and very close we got the circuit. It's a beautiful day. I hope it will be like that for the rest of the day, and all the fans will enjoy around the circuit. And now we go in the press conference. It's a long time since I drove a Formula 1 car, so in a few minutes get out here in Moscow. I'm looking forward. I'm really nervous. In Moscow they starting to know something about Formula 1, so it would be nice to show them how quick is a Formula 1 car, how we can do with the car, and we expect a lot of tifosi. This is the first lap. It's an installation lap just to check out if everything is okay. We are just at the start here. Now left corner in first gear. As you can see, the circuit is really bumpy. And as I told you, it's the first lap, and I'm just checking around. Now we are going down to the bridge. This is a corner in first gear, the bridge, and on our right hand side we got the Cremlino. Now I reached the speed around 270 kilometers an hour, which is not bad, and now I'm doing a U-turn to going back. I'm really happy. We had a fantastic weather. There were around 200,000 people around the circuit. It's been great going around for the street of Moscow with a Ferrari Formula 1.
In the section relating to the Formula 1 alphabet, today we discover with Scuderia Ferrari technicians more about brakes and what quick shift, radiate and traction are.
Brakes on an F1 car are very important, obviously, to slow the car down from the very high speeds we do on the straight into the corners. Sometimes we go from 300 kilometers an hour to 70 or 80. They're also very special. They are made of solid carbon fibre. They're incredibly light. This is maybe a quarter or less than a road car brake, and they will absorb maybe 10 times the energy that a road car brake would ever accept, and we do that 6 times per lap. So they have these little holes which we blow air through to cool them down. They can decelerate the car at 4 or 5 times the force of gravity, so again 5 times what you'll ever achieve in a normal road car.
QS Quick Shift is a new concept of gearbox, internals and strategies that enable a seamless gear change without any power loss, much quicker, much smooth for the driver in terms of feeling and drivability, and the time lapse saved by this kind of gear change is something around 2-3 tenths, and it's quite a a huge step that has been introduced 3-4 years ago.
The ride height of the car is the amount of millimetres it is above the ground. In general, the car is slightly raked. It's something like 80 millimetres at the rear and 20 millimetres at the front. Now it's defined by, if I turn the model upside down, the number of millimetres the car is off this plane of the car, which is always flat, at the front wheel and the rear wheel centre line. So it's a bit of an arbitrary number because in fact we don't have any bodywork here and there's no car here. There is at the rear but not at the front. So when the engineer is setting up the car, he's talking about the ride height at the front of something like 20 millimetres and something like the rear of 80 millimetres. Now that is very, very important for the performance of the car, because the lower you can go with the car, the faster it will go around the track. So every 10 millimetres you go down, you'll go about half a second a lap quicker, which is, everybody might ask the question, why don't you run the car on the ground? The problem is that if you run the car too low, the driver complains because it's hitting the ground and it makes him go slower. So we have to set it high enough such that it doesn't hit the ground as it's going round. Because as it's going round, basically we're generating downforce from the front wing and the rear wing. And these push the car into the ground. So we have to keep the car off the ground at all times. We use the springs on the front and the rear, and we use the tyre pressures to do this. So even if we had solid springs on the front and rear and made the car fixed, the tyres still squash into the ground. So it's a very, very powerful tool for the engineer to set the car up. If we get it wrong, the driver complains because he can't see where he's going because he's hitting the ground, and the bottom of the car gets very hot.
Traction refers to the tractive effort of the rear axle, and basically it's how quickly you can accelerate the car. We usually talk about traction more in terms from the low speed corner. So when you exit the low speed corner, the less wheel spin and the more acceleration that you have, the quicker the car will go, and that's what we refer to as traction. Usually if we want to fix traction, we have to work on the rear axle of the car or put the forces towards the rear axle of the car to improve the traction.
Scuderia Ferrari Racing News will be back on August 3rd with the final spot before the summer break and more interesting facts from the world of the Reds.